she's kind of in the same boat as Connor.
Right.
She's a big star, and she can command an audience, but she makes a lot of money, but she's not really winning anymore. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, a fight that wasn't nearly as technical and fun to watch as Sandhagen-Dillashaw happened this weekend as well. I'm talking about Paige VanZant versus Rachael Ostovich.
Yeah.
Rachel handing Paige her second loss in a row. She's now 0-2 in bare knuckle. I got to give credit to Rachel here. She did land a lot of very good, very precise and hard counter straights that were really kind of the tale of, it was a close fight, but it was what really separated the decision there. Rachel did a lot more damage. Paige would come in with these barrages, but Rachel seemed to really find that laser point accuracy and do enough damage to get the job done.
Yeah, this is certainly not where Paige VanZant envisioned herself when she left the UFC and moved on with bare knuckle. And bare knuckle obviously didn't either. They threw a lot of money her way because they thought she'd probably be pretty successful, not only as a draw but as a fighter, because she was a high level girl in the UFC at one point. She was able to get some wins over in the toughest promotion in the sport. So it's odd to see her at 0-2. I think she's a little bit shocked, but she's fought two girls that came more than ready to fight. And at the end of the day, if you're not taking these people out, you're leaving it in the hands of the judges, and that's a very scary decision, or a very scary situation to be in, because decisions are, they can go any way, and every state is different, every judge is different, the way they watch fights is different. There's a lot of human error that goes into judging. I would say about 8 times out of 10, you see people that have the same mindset around judging, and that's why we do agree with most scorecards. But sometimes they throw curveballs your way, and I think they got it right with this one. I think Rachael Ostovich did do enough and landed the bigger shots, the more damaging shots, and just perception is one of those things. Like when you're watching a fight and the optics are saying that, like, every time this girl lands, it looks like she's kind of crumbling her opponent. And yeah, the other girl might be landing just as much or maybe a little more, but she's not. You can't really tell because you're not reading a stat sheet right off the numbers and like, oh, well, she landed 15 strikes this round. She landed 8. So, but if those 8 were bigger than the 15, then it outweighs those. So it's very hard to judge. But I think Rachael Ostovich, she came prepared. She clearly trained hard for this, and it's nice to see her get one back against PVZ.
Yeah, they're now 1-1. So
yeah,
maybe like Connor and Dustin, we'll see that elusive and infamous rubber match. But the thing about Paige that I saw that was a bit concerning for me is she said, look, I'm putting all of my focus into boxing right now. Mm-hmm. It's all I'm doing. And I understand that. And at the same time, though, I watch her fight and I see the stance that she's using and the way she's coming forward. We talk about this all the time. Proper hip placement and how you're holding your weight is tremendously important for how much pop and power you can get into your punches and how defensively smart you're able to be and how elusive you can be in those firefights and those exchanges. And Paige comes, what I saw Friday night, very forward with her hips. So almost like she's pushing her hips forward, whereas we know in order to generate a lot of power and a lot of pop, you need to kind of have those hips back and a little bit more of an athletic stance. Yeah. Obviously, chin down and the hands up and nice and relaxed. But she was kind of hips forward with her hands super high and her shoulders almost exaggerated. And she kept, I don't know if it's like a tick that she does or if she's trying to use it as a bait, but like that open hand trying to bait the parry there to get them to try to throw a strike that way. I'm not sure if it's something that she just does naturally, instinctively, or if she's actively trying to create some sort of reaction out of her opponents when she does that. But it wasn't really effective. The stance wasn't the most athletic stance to really fire off powerful shots. And Rachel was very, hips back, squared underneath herself so she can generate a lot of power and a lot of torque in her hips when she throws, and she was very accurate. Every time Paige came in with that weird kind of stance, Rachel would crack her, and then because she's kind of in an awkward position at that point, once you get hit and your hips are forward like that, you kind of start to fall back, and then Rachel could follow up with a couple more. They had some good exchanges in the clinch, but Rachel, again, seemed to be the stronger, more dominant person there. I don't even know exactly the full rule set for how the clinch works in bare knuckle, but just optically, it looked like Rachel was getting a lot of the better exchanges there. And all in all, Paige, if she is focused on just boxing now, she does have a lot to work on her in her technical boxing skill, because last night I saw a lot of things that were technically incorrect in her game.
Yeah, and I never want to take I don't deserve to take any toughness credit away from somebody who's willing to step into a bare knuckle fist fight. So I'm not going to do that to Paige VanZant. However, when you see somebody fighting with a high guard when they generally don't do that, and they weren't known for that in MMA, that could be a sign of her being a little bit scared of big shots landing on her. And I totally understand that. Nobody wants to get hit in the face, let alone without gloves on. And you know, Rachael Ostovich punches hard, especially for that division. And you know, so I can understand why she doesn't want to get hit in the face. But sometimes when you compromise your comfortability in the ring or in the cage, and you just to secure yourself, you can almost make it way more awkward to move and get out of the way of punches that you would have been getting out of the way of, because you're trying to block with all your might and by any means necessary. If that means you got to cover your chin with your shoulder and you got to bring this up here, I can't slip punches the way I need to right here. This is more risky, right? But you can slip a lot easier with your hands in a more normal, neutral place. And I think that might have been part of her issue. She's felt the way getting hit with no gloves on feels. It doesn't feel great. Rachel hadn't felt that yet, so she didn't really know. You know, ignorance is bliss in that situation. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good point
to not understand. And I'm sure now she'll be a little bit different going into it. I think winning will help keep her on the same track that she's on. But Paige knows just how hard these shots actually land, and they feel bad both on your hands and on your face. I think that Rachael was able to just land some big shots, and then that gave her the confidence and momentum to keep landing big shots and not shy away or duck from shots or start to cower away from anything. And I think that's why. And Paige, obviously, standing in that compromised position with her hips forward, she wasn't generating any power to scare Rachael away from throwing big shots.
Yeah, and it's something that she's definitely going to have to address, because bare knuckle is a finish-oriented sport. I mean, you get a high finish percentage with the cuts and the knockouts. I mean, you're talking about, it's either, as Chael Sonnen said, it was either the first time a fight happened, somebody wrestled, or somebody punched somebody in the face with a bare fist. But one of those two things was the first human conflict that ever happened. So the bare knuckle as a sport itself, even though it's relatively new here as a professional sanctioned sport in certain areas, it's not new in the sense that that's almost the purest form of fighting, two people standing toe-to-toe and throwing bare fists at each other. And as you said, ignorance is bliss a little bit for Rachael Ostovich, because she'd never been hit with a bare knuckle. Even when you're training, you can't train. It's one of those funny sports, because with MMA, you know, we can even put on the big gloves, but they're still MMA gloves. We can still do MMA with those gloves on. But with bare knuckle, there's really no way to spar for that other than just boxing sparring with headgear and 16 or 18 ounce gloves or what have you. But you can't spar somebody bare knuckle, because you would go into the fight with your face cut up and your knuckles broken.
You wouldn't be medically cleared.
Exactly. So it's one of those unique sports where the experience happens largely in the actual fight itself. And it's not really my thing, if I'm being honest. It's not my favorite thing in the world to watch. I don't think it's the most competitive or true display of martial arts or fighting styles. It's kind of just an ass-kicking contest and who's the toughest person at the end of the day. But if Paige is going to continue to fight in bare knuckle, she's going to have to address some of these gaping holes in her boxing game that are as clear to see. They're just as plain as day. And so I hope she can get back and correct some of those and come back. She always comes out on her Instagram after something like that happens and says, look, I'm going to rise from this. And we want to believe her. We want to go along for that ride. We want to be fans of PVZ. But at the same time, it's been a long time since Paige has really strung together some wins, and we need to see. She's kind of in the same boat as Conor. She's a big star, and she can command an audience, but she makes a lot of money, but she's not really winning anymore. And until and if those losses continue to pile up, even with somebody as big as Conor, the amount of eyes that will continue to be on you will start to lessen.
Yeah, and like Paige VanZant, she's one of the lucky few people, Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, the outcome doesn't exactly matter. But there comes a point where you do have to win some fights every now and again just to make sure people care about you and they don't just throw you out there as a bum. And I think she needs to get a couple wins, and it's kind of like I've heard Joe Rogan talk about it. Somebody that he had on his podcast, I can't remember who it was. They said the difference between stand-up comedy and just being funny is anybody can be funny on a whim, right? Like you can say something that gets a reaction, right. But stand-up comedy is a different thing, and it's kind of like what you're saying with the fights. You do have to win. You could have the most famous person in the world step on a stand-up comedy stage, and the crowd may give them a 5-minute grace period. Okay,
because of their fame
yeah,
level.
Maybe they aren't a comedian. They're trying their hand in this, but you only have about 5 or 10 minutes, and if you're not making us laugh, then we're gonna make you feel real awkward, and you're gonna walk yourself out of there.
Get off and bring the funny man on. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting thing. No matter who you are, no matter what level you get to, if Conor McGregor can't start winning fights, his pay-per-view numbers are gonna hurt. Same with Paige VanZant. If Justin Bieber goes on a stand-up comedy stage, people might give him the first 5 or 10 minutes, but if he's not laughing by minute number 12, everybody's going to start to go, well, this guy's a joke. This guy, we're not going to pay for this stuff anymore.
Right. No, 100%. And I think Paige and Conor are both in that situation right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that I wasn't intending on bringing Conor into this video, but it makes sense. I think both of them are kind of in the same boat as far as that goes. Both of them need to come back, and they desperately need a win if they want to cement themselves as somebody who people are going to watch as they continue their career, rather.
Yeah, Conor could close the books on his career right now. He's still a Hall of Famer. He did some things that nobody else will ever be able to do in this sport again. But if you're going to be an athlete in the sport that's competing right now, you do have to put some wins together every now and again.
That's for sure. Well, guys, let us know. Did you watch the bare knuckle match between Rachael and Paige? Let us know. Paige was clearly upset by the decision, but I think it was pretty clear cut. But if any of you guys out there thought she won, please let us know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, a like, comment, and subscribe is always much appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, Nick and I are there as well. So check us out for your audio podcast, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Peace.